exercise this morning. It's kettlebell Tabata. Okay, Tabata singles, but we'll talk about that once we get one. Last time you're going to be listening, no, not the last time, we found a problem to the wireless camera. So if you're watching on recorded, it sounds tinny, it sounds a bit guff. That's because it is, it's a rubbish microphone, but a couple of days time, we're going to be back to the high quality stuff. So I'm going to be shouting, it's going to sound a bit echoey, it's going to pick up a lot of background noise, no doubt, but bear with me. It's not amateur hour for much longer. Right, let's get into it. We're going to go for our usual first mobility movement because this one is great for getting us prepped for the kettlebell workouts. We're going to lift up and we're going to push back. Now, settle into it because straight away, day to day, as you'll know, depending on what exercise you've been doing, etc., you might feel different every time you do this each day. Okay, so a lot of us get that tightness in the ankles. So try to relax the muscles as you go into this stretch. It takes a few seconds to get yourself really into it, and then once you feel you've got a decent hold, that's when you're trying to push, and take it further. So think about it from the ankles, okay? I'm feeling the stretch from my ankles, feeling it into my calves, I'm feeling it in my hamstrings. Make sure you're lifting that pelvis up as well, just to help lengthen the hamstrings that little bit more. And then from here, think about the upper body. I want you to really push those arms away from you, trying to get the arms as straight as you can, and then push the head and chest through the arms as if you're trying to get towards the ground, all the while pushing back on those heels and pushing those hips up and back. So we're getting a hell of a lot of work done here in one simple movement. And then from here, I'm going to bring my feet together, and remember, don't just drop the hips. I want you to push up like a dog getting up or a cat getting up and stretching. Stretch out that spine before you then drop the hips down, okay? When we drop those hips down, it should be a case of you're pushing up through. Okay, the points of contact I've got here are my tiptoes and my hands, okay? Don't rest your knees on the ground. Yes, there we are. Jeez, oh Wilson, you've not been here in a while. Right, so from here, it's not a full press up position. I'm trying to push myself up. So I want you to think about trying to get your nose to touch the ceiling as opposed to trying to drop your hips down low, okay? So really try in this overextended position to push up. Feel that stretch running down your neck, potentially into the chest and shoulders, into the core, maybe even the hip flexors as well. And then from here, I'm coming back up. So I've done that initial stretch. So when I go into this second one, hopefully you feel you're getting a better one. And this is where I would tell you now to start adding in your side twist. So establish the stretch, get yourself anchored, and then try doing the side to side twist of your torso. So you're trying to get your chest to face left and then right while pushing through the hand and really feeling that stretch in and around your armpit area, which will be your lats, okay? That's your upper back muscles. Good, and then from here you can also take your left hand and reach across. Try and grab your right ankle while keeping that form. So I'm trying to push my hips up. Don't break form to do so. If you can't reach your ankle, aim for the middle of your shin. If you can't, then aim for your knee. But what it should feel like is a pretty tough stretch, and you'll feel it enhancing into the glutes, into the hammies, into the groin. You might even feel that lower back too. We're going to drop down for one last stretch. Dropping down, pushing up through. Good. I just realised I've not been mauled by a bear. If you're looking, I forgot to change my t-shirt. It's my favourite training t-shirt, behind closed doors of course. But just in case you're thinking, yep, you're correct, I have zero fashion sense. Which I'm not in the poor house, just in case you're thinking, down to the last rags. Washing machine chewed it up, but I still wear it because it's just one of those t-shirts that make you feel good when you're training. So I know people will not even notice, but now they will. But there'll be certain people going, oh geez, oh, I feel so with his ripped holy t-shirt. Right, we're going to get into our hip sequence. Swings, side swings, and toe touches. Really pay attention to these. Okay, I'm going to walk back here. Hold on to something as always, and the purpose here is to swing the leg from the hips, Keep the pelvis neutral, okay? So that's why it's better to hold on to something here. So I'm trying to loosen off any stiffness that I'm feeling this morning, okay? So you're just trying here to open up your usual mobility. So it's important if you're feeling anything catching.
You're recording this?
Yes, I am. Thanks for ruining it. Yeah, what you got? What you got?
Can I show you my new neighbour?
Your new what? Your new what? You're cutting out.
New neighbours.
Yeah, go on then. I feel I need to narrate this now. For people on record who don't have a clue what you're going on about. Where the hell are they? Is it ducks? So for those of you who can't see, certain individuals just decided to disrupt the class, walk across the garden and show me a load of ducks. Well, look like ducks walking across the field. Thank you.
Can you see them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what a real sight that is. Don't get any ducks walking around here, I tell you that for nothing. Good. So, back to business. We're getting these leg swings in, or side swings. And I want you to really take your time and focus on quality. We're not rushing these. Because as always with the kettlebell classes, the warm-up is condensed right down. Okay? So we're going for our hips back. And again, by now you should be familiar with this one. This one's so important. This is our hip hinge movement. So it's important when you're doing this that you're warming up with the kettlebell swing in mind. Okay? So we're trying to push the hips back while keeping my spine neutral. For those of you who are more than familiar, get it going. For those of you who don't, listen in. I'm standing up tall as if I'm getting my height taken. Okay, from here, I want you to imagine your spine is now frozen. It can't move, can't flex, can't overextend. Okay, so it's a simple matter of when you're pushing your hips back, you're maintaining this upper body position. Push your hips back as far as you can, and hopefully you should be able to touch the ground. If you can't touch the ground while keeping a nice neutral spine, you need to work on your mobility, okay? Before you even think about starting to throw a kettlebell around, you need to work on your mobility. Yep, happy days. Now once you get that going, feel free to break form. So I want you to keep form to the ground, and then break form to touch behind, okay? And by touching behind, you're just throwing in that lower back as well, getting a good stretch out on that dynamically. So hips back, touch behind, push through. Kettlebell swing in mind. How do we push through with a kettlebell swing? Smash through the hips, squeeze the butt. Okay, we should be starting to build that movement pattern up. So I'm driving my feet hard into the ground and I'm snapping those hips forwards. That's what I want you to build up to. So if you're feeling pretty stiff and sore, it's okay if you go slow to begin with. But bear that in mind. Anytime you hear me mention a hip hinge, it is literally we're hinging at the hips. If you do it correctly and you've got your arms or the kettlebell hanging down, when you push your hips back, you should be touching in between your feet. Okay, you can see me here. You should be in between your feet while having that neutral spine. If you've not pushed your hips back and all you've done is break form and lean forward, it looks like this. Okay, you'll probably have your hands away out in front because you've not pushed your hips back, therefore you've not lengthened out your hamstrings, your glutes, your lower back. All you've done is bend your back forward. Does that make sense? So that's the difference between loading up these big powerful muscle groups and just simply putting your spine in a vulnerable position and using a bit of brute force, okay, which we don't want to do. So really focus on that movement. And like I say, I am happy to keep harping on. I know some people will be like, oh, get on with it. But when you're practicing this, look side on in a mirror and just go slow. Okay, it's easy enough when you know how to do it, but you need to train your brain. As a beginner, you'll be watching along, push my hips back and then, oh, my knees are starting to bend, right, stop, straighten my knees out, right, continue. And then eventually you'll start to build up, like I've told you before, those motor skills, those switches in your head that make this movement function. Over time, over practice, it just happens, okay? You don't even need to think about it. Happy with that, right? Okay, set yourself up for a squat. We're going to open up these hips, so really stretch out the groin now. We're going to squat down. Take it as far as you can, nice and slow, the perfect squat until you feel something start to ruin the perfect squat, whether it's your bad ankle mobility, tight groin, keep chest up, pull those knees apart, drive the toes into the ground. So what I'm doing here is trying to establish the best depth of the perfect squat that I can give. As in, I'm keeping my spine neutral. So think about that, I don't want to be slumped forwards. Force the chest up, pull the knees apart, and then release. Okay, and I'm just going to shake out. And then I'm going to go again, squatting down. Elbows into knees, force the chest up. If you can establish good depth, you can get into the ankles while you're here simply by trying to sit your bahoogie on your heel, while giving it a few bounces, just a few light bounces to help relax those muscles, okay? But make sure you're trying to sit your bum on your heel and you're not putting too much stress by leaning forwards, okay? Because then you'll feel it in your knee, putting a lot of strain on your knee if you're right up on your tippy toes. Right, okay, well from here, we're going to get jogging on the spot ever so lightly, get our shoulder sequence gone and done and gone, and then we're getting into this, okay? Not a lot of tutorial this morning. Exercises we've done before, simple ones, and it's a good format this morning for getting you better. Okay, let's go. Pull the arms back, squeeze the shoulder blades. I want you to focus on two things. Stretching out the chest and the shoulders and the biceps. So play around with the position of your palms to get the biceps in. Really try and point your palm backwards. Okay, so face your palm back behind you. And I want you to really think about squeezing those shoulder blades, activating all those upper back muscles as well as the back of your shoulders. So a 2-in-1 movement, this good stretch, but also getting those upper back muscles nice and warm too. From here, straight arms, I want you to point the fingertips, okay? Try to be nice and graceful with this. Point the fingertips to keep those arms as straight as you can. Keep the shoulder blades pulled together. Keep the chest proud and start lifting them up. When you start to feel your shoulders shrug or your arms bend uncontrollably, if that happens, try and fight it. I want you to try and push the body through the arms. Push the body through the arms. And try to keep those shoulder blades pulled down and together. Really think about that. And if you feel yourself starting to overextend at the lower back, okay, again, because of this tightness, that's us compensating if there's tightness up there, squeeze the butt. Just try, as you're jogging, you don't have to squeeze it to the point where you're like this. Okay, just put a little bit of tension on the butt and you'll feel that pelvis stay nice and neutral, okay? And then from here, jumping jack style arms. Nice and graceful again, okay? We're trying to keep those shoulder blades pulled together. We're trying to keep the shoulder girdle pulled down, as in no shrugging. If things are that bad for you, mobility-wise up there, then there's only so much you can do to try to limit it, okay? But you know the solution. Get the mobility up there, or don't. That is up to you. From here, nice light punches forwards. Okay, try and get the heart rate up now. Okay, I want you to punch fast, and I want you to be nice and light on the toes. And you can see, not quite high knees, but almost there. So don't just give it half-arsedness. Punch, punch, punch. Is that even a term? I don't know. I just made it up, but it's fine. From here, out to the side. Think about the elbow. Back yourself in the chest. Boom, out to the side. Lock the elbow out, pull it back in. From here, I'm going down. I want you to really think. So we're high pulls. Think about doing a high pull from the waist. Look at my elbow. Elbow's high. Pull from the elbow. Okay, I'm seeing some of this. Like you're eating a bowl of blooming spaghetti bolognese. Get the elbows up nice and high. You like that one? Pull your, think about the elbow. Keep the elbow up high as if you're trying to throw your elbow over your shoulder. Good. Beautiful. Oh, for God. Right, come on. Punch up. Punch up. Get these feet moving. Good. The blooming Cookie Monster. Here we go. Up, 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 up. Pull those elbows down, remember. If someone came along and built a wall next to you, either side, you shouldn't be hitting your elbows off them. Those arms should be going straight up and straight down with the elbow underneath. None of this. Okay, we're not at a rave. There we go. Beautiful. Big shrugs, big shrugs. Oh, I'm not coming too close so you can see the state of the throw. Saying that, there's no hiding it, is there? Right, from here. Big shrugs back the way. Try and just warm up that shoulder girdle. Get those upper traps nice and warm. In the neck. Tuck the chin in. Big rotations of that neck. Try to keep the shoulder girdle level, as in don't do big circles with your head leaning it. Just try to keep everything nice and relaxed. Just loosen off that neck. Boom. Right, okay, the warm-up is complete. All I'm going to do, there's 6 circuits this morning, 3 minutes per circuit, and there's only 6 exercises, because each circuit only has 1 exercise on it. So think of a Tuesday night Tabata where we do exercise 1, exercise 2. Exactly the same, except it's just 1 exercise. Okay? Beautiful, I know. Hit it! We're on it. Okay, so this morning it's Tabata singles. We're working on 1 exercise at a time. From this, you'll be able to build some up to the level that you need to work on. So don't just choose the easy route. Okay, this is easy. I'm going to stick with this one. Challenge yourself. That's the purpose of this morning. We get to challenge ourselves in a controlled environment. We're working on the basics. Things like, you can see I've got 4 kettlebells out here, okay? Lucky me, I know, you've only got one, it's a damn shame, lockdown and all that. Why not pay £400 for a kettlebell to get it now? Anyway, 4 kettlebells. The reason for that is I'm going to try and push myself and build myself up to heavier weights on exercises that maybe need a bit more work, okay? So the legs of my kettlebell swing this morning, I'm going to start off the first round, and that's the beauty of it. 20 seconds on, start off the first round on a fairly light one, and I personally am going to start building up to a weight that I find challenging. I want you to do the same, of course, if you're able to. I appreciate not everybody's got a vast selection of kettlebells, but if you've got one that sits there that you don't always use because maybe you don't have the confidence, now is the time to challenge yourself, okay? So across these exercises this morning, the purpose of this is to try to develop. That's why we're only doing one at a time. 30 seconds we're going to begin, and the first exercise is of course going to be a double-handed kettlebell swing. We're classic. It's going to be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for 3 minutes. So that's all you need to worry about. This is going to be short and sharp. 15 seconds we start. When I'm picking my kettlebell up, I get a good solid grip, I stand up tall, and you've done that already because we're getting ready to go, aren't we? Yes, we have. From here, just like we've done on those toe touches in the warm-up, hips back, snap them forwards. Hips back, snap them forwards. Stand by. Get this going. Snap through with those hips. Drive those toes hard into the ground. Make sure you're not going back too far. You should not feel your lower back start to curve. Your chest is proud, your shoulder blades pull together. Easy as that, everybody. Shake out. In 5 seconds we go again, okay? So make sure these kettlebells are up in 3, 2, 1, go. So Tabata singles, it can always feel, oh, this is going to be easy, but this is largely to do with what weight you're using. So if you've got a real light kettlebell, 3 minutes of this, that's nothing. That's why I'm telling you, if you've got a heavier kettlebell, maybe after a few rounds now, get to it, okay? There's going to be six, stand by, 6 bouts of 20 seconds. So once we get this one done, pretty much halfway there, really squeeze those glutes. We should be feeling those glutes, getting tired, burning almost. Good. Halfway there, so this is what I would tell you. Let's go a bit heavier if you're able to. Be safe, be sensible, stand by. Go. And I'm just doing mine side on to you, because it lets you see exactly what's going on with my posture and the movement pattern of those hips back, snap them forward. Squeeze those butt cheeks as hard as you can to lock those hips out. That's what's going to keep your lower back safe, everybody. Stand by again. Go. And if you do move to heavier kettlebells, that's when you'll really learn to snap those hips. You really learn the power needed to do these correctly, which will make the lighter weight even easier. Imagine if you go out a walk, you'd be walking a long route and all of a sudden you find a shortcut. That's what happens when you start lifting heavy. Stand by. You're teaching your brain. You teach your brain how to be more powerful, more explosive. So when you pick up those lighter weights, that newfound power makes that weight feel even easier. Makes you more economical. Relax. Good work, everyone. Good work. Focus on your breathing and make sure we're doing these correctly. So rest there. That's the first circuit done. Working on the basic. Remember, that kettlebell swing, that hip hinge, is at the foundation of a lot, in fact, the majority of the kettlebell exercises that we do, okay? So don't let that go to waste. On this next round, we're going to move on to kettlebell single arm swings. Nothing changes other than I'm holding my kettlebell with one arm, okay? Now when I'm holding my kettlebell with one arm, let me show you. The forces of nature So if I was doing it two-handed, hips back, hips forward. Okay, if I was doing it and letting nature take over, when I push those hips back, see how I'm being pulled this way? My chest's now going here, my shoulders dropping. Okay, I'm putting all that horrible strain on my lower back. That's what I'm trying to fight. Chest proud. Keep yourself square on. Square on facing forward.
Activity completed.
That includes your pelvis, that includes your chest. That's where the core starts working real hard now to try and keep you in balance. Does that make sense? Good. Right, let's get the show on the road. So like I say, challenge yourself if you're able to. So no, don't listen to that. We're getting excited. My button went all weird. Blame the button. Right. So if you've only got one kettlebell and you found your single arm swings a wee bit challenging, you'll really feel the difference now. Okay, it's the same weight, but now we're using one arm. It's going to feel a bit heavier. It's going to demand you to really snap those hips forwards. We need to snap those hips and throw those hips forward. Catch it by squeezing the butt. 3 seconds, everybody. Start on any arm you please. Hips back, snap them forward. Remember, your arm is just an extension of your body. Your arm is not lifting this kettlebell. You should not feel like you're using the shoulders to lift this thing up. That's the biggest problem. People start doing this. Okay, front raising. People start front raising like this, using the shoulder. It's not about that. We're using the hips. 3 seconds, change arms. So remember, it's hips back and then snap them. Really snap them forward. What you do with the other arms up to you. But for me, it just naturally goes out here for balance. Remember, hips, pelvis, chest, it's facing square on. I'm keeping my chest proud, shoulder blades pulled together, I'm snapping my hips, and I'm squeezing my butt. Nothing has changed, okay? Change arms. You don't need to put the kettlebell down, but you can if you want. Remember, challenge yourself if you're able to. Hips back, snap the hips back, snap the hips. Really think about throwing those hips forwards. And make sure, and the reason I keep mentioning it constantly is because it's so important, squeeze the glutes as hard as you can to lock the hips out, because that is what's going to stop you from hurting your lower back, okay? If you're doing these soft swings, you're going to hurt yourself. You're putting so much strain on your back. Stand by. Let's work hard here. Now, as we're doing this, and I can see some of you are really slashing through with those hips now. That's good. Now think about the feet. Drive the toes hard into the ground. Your feet should be solid, as if they're cemented to the ground. You should not be rocking back and forward heel to toe. That's another common mistake you'll see people do, okay? We rock. We don't want to rock. Plant those feet. Those feet don't move. It's the hips. Stand by. Let's go. Snap those hips. Challenge yourself. Remember, you can do it if you snap those hips hard. Be powerful. Poof, out. You can hear my breathing. I'm not exaggerating it. Big breath in. Imagine you're at the doctor's and you're doing the airway test. That's how our breathing should be. Let's go. If you were going a nice steady run, you've got time to breathe. Nice and relaxed, but this has to be powerful. Big breath in, out. You're trying to get as much in and as much out in one big almighty exhale and inhale. Great work, everyone. Good work indeed. Keep it sensible, keep it safe, make sure you're doing it properly. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right, okay? Relax. Right, we're going to the floor. We're going to be doing Turkish half get-ups. So this is where a lot of people at home with their Turkish get-ups, they can't get off the floor with their kettlebell, or they can't get off the floor with their heavier kettlebells. So that's why they end up using a can of beans. The purpose of this is to try to teach you the power and the explosiveness required to get up. Okay, because most people, once they get to this part of the Turkish get-up, they've got it, okay? With a bit of concentration, they've got it. But getting up to here requires so much power and explosiveness, okay? And we have to teach ourselves that, okay? It's not a case of you need to build the muscle and strength. Strength is very much a part of you teaching your brain, unlocking these pathways to get all these muscle fibers firing up at the same time. Okay, that's all we're trying to do. If you try to be explosive, you try to be powerful, you're going to You're going to recruit more muscle fibers into the lift, and that's fact. Okay, that's not me talking guff. That's fact. So that's why you always hear me go fast, explosive, powerful. I'm trying to get that into your head. Be fast. If you just try to sit up half-assed, you're not going to get up unless you're holding a can of beans. So challenge yourself this morning. Very quick demo for those who might have forgotten. I'm lying down. Be sensible. Don't just use a heavy kettlebell and try and rack it up. You're going to end up hurting your shoulder. Get the other arm. Be sensible. Use the other one if you need it. We crush the hell out of that kettlebell. Remember, we squeeze the hell out of it all times. Elbow locked out, solid. Shoulder blade pulled together. Usual stuff. Okay, if I've got it in my left hand, my left leg is up like a glute bridge. You can see it's not at my butt, it's up to the outside of my butt. More stability. Think of a stabilizer because that's what it is. My other arm is out to the side of me, roughly 45 degrees, but you'll find what works for you. From this position, I want you to think about punching the sky. Yes, our arms already fully extended, but I want you to still think about punching it as hard as you can. So in a combination of a punch, I want you to sit up explosively and get onto that elbow. So from here, boom! Okay, I'm onto my forearm. From this part now, my hand, I'm still going to, the next part here, sorry, we're going to punch again, but I'm going to drive my hand into the ground. Punch, drive the hand in. So now I'm locked out. So that's me, okay? That's a half Turkish get up. To get back down, back onto the elbow, keep the chest proud, fight it, back down. Do not let yourself just collapse at the lower back and put all that strain on your lower back. Happy with that? Good. Again, this should not be news. That was a quick revision. We should all know how to do a Turkish get up by this point in time. If you don't, you need to watch the video. Right. Challenge yourself here. If you're using a heavier weight and you're struggling to get off the floor, keep struggling. But for the first few, start with a light. Okay, so let's start with the first few, just light, to get it in your head first. Fancy watch on, turn it so it's on the inside of your wrist, okay, so you don't smash it with your kettlebell. So from here, I'm good to go. Set yourself up, 5 seconds. Crush the kettlebell, plant the foot, get the hand on the ground, punch, punch, back down, under control, punch, punch, back down, under control. Remember what I said about that lower back? Don't let it just mould into the shape of the ground and collapse. Try to bring it all down together, and that's where this exercise becomes a core exercise. I want you to finish the rep you're on when that buzzer finishes, okay? Don't cut it short because it's a short range of movement. Okay, let's do it. Punch, punch, and of course, you'll maybe find that one side is significantly harder. But I want you to use those challenging weights, because it's in those challenging weights that you're going to learn the technique, the power. You're going to make the mistakes. And when you make the mistakes, you'll feel them. You'll feel that loss of power. So keep changing arms when that buzzer goes. But remember, finishing the rep that you're on. Crush the kettlebell. Think about that part at least. Arms straight. Punch the ceiling. Back down. Back down. It should be 2 phases. Punch onto the elbow. Punch onto the hand. And when I say punch, I'm talking about that kettlebell. Punch it up. Be explosive. Be powerful. Yes, it's tough, but that is going to make us better. Keep your eyes on that kettlebell. Stare it to death. So now we maybe start thinking soon about going to those heavier weights. 1. And that's of course if you're able to. Okay, I appreciate not everybody's got them. But if you've got a weight you struggle to get up with, give it a bash pretty soon. Okay? Remember, you've already got the strength to get it up. You just need to teach yourself. And that is so true. To a point, of course. If you're trying to do it with a 60 kilo kettlebell, that's not going to be true. But if you've got a 12 and you're struggling to get up at a 16, you've already got the strength to do it. Your brain just doesn't know quite how to. And it's through that struggle and really trying to be explosive, which you can hear me doing now. Punch up with all your might, and the best way to be explosive and powerful, get angry with it, okay? We can use anger. Frustration, no. That just clouds everything. But you can channel your anger into this movement. That's why you can hear I'm really trying. So this is challenging for me. So you can see how much more difficult it is when you're using a heavy weight. But if I go back to my lighter weight now, if I go back, oh my word, if I go back to my lighter weight now, all this power that I'm adopting now for this heavier one, I think that's us done. Yep, it is. I'm getting carried away. So top tip with that one, keep practicing, keep struggling. If you're always choosing the easy way, the one you can do, are you going to get better? Negative, okay, you're definitely not. You need to choose that weight you're struggling with. You can hear, just from doing half Turkish get up, just from doing a heavy half Turkish get up, my heart rate's up, I'm struggling, okay? So, if you find a lot of these movements not very effective, it's probably because you're using a light kettlebell, which is fine if you're learning, but a lot of people, it's like anything. With kettlebell classes, etc., the problem if you go to an en masse kettlebell class with like 30 odd folk in a gym back in the day, chances are they went in, they picked up the one weight, and 1 year later, I love my kettlebells, they're still using the same weight, okay, and that's a problem. If you were doing weight training, would you come in the gym every day and lift the same weight over and over again? Perhaps, because some people do, but if you want to get better, you need to work your way up, okay? Think of it like this, because nowadays with the Lidl and Aldi odd kettlebells that you get, you can pretty much get a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 kilo kettlebell. The classic kettlebell jump should be from 8 to 12 to 16 to 20 to 24 to 28 to 32 to 36 to 40. That's your classic jump. So that's the steps I would like you to take. If you've got a 12 and you're feeling that double hand swing's not challenging anymore, buy a 16. You're not going to be able to do a snatch with a 16 yet. You're going to struggle initially with the swings with that 16, but over time you're going to get better at the swings. And then all of a sudden you're going to get more powerful at your other movements. So then you start building up, and all of a sudden the 12 that you used to use for a swing, you're now using for a snatch. Does that make sense? Progressive overload, people. You hear me talk about it now and again. Your training should adopt, what's its name? Not even talk progressive overload. Right, your next exercise, this is where you're getting the can of beans out. This is a windmill. Use a lighter kettlebell or a overhead, or a can of beans. Overhead, shoulder blade locked, hips back, hips back, hips back. I'm trying to touch my toes here, but I don't want you to reach for them. I'm pushing my hips back, 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 back. If you've got the mobility, you'll touch the toes. If you don't break form. Stand by, go. Hips back, hips back, hips back. Your eyes are once again on the kettlebell. You are not bending the back. This is a hip hinge. Think back to the warm-up. Think of a kettlebell swing. Hips back, hips back, hips back. I want you to feel those hamstrings, those glutes lengthening out. Fantastic. Back to the floor. You've got enough time to change arms. Get up over your head, lock it out, pull the shoulder blade together, lock the elbow out, squeeze the kettlebell, and go. So remember, I'm stood up tall, I'm stood up proud, I'm pushing my hips back with soft knees. Don't lock your knees out or you're not going to be able to push your hips back very far. Hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back. Don't reach for your toes. Do not reach for them. Look at me now. My arm's here, I push my hips back and it travels down. Do not break form so that you can reach. Tall, proud, hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back. And if I'm able to push my hips back far enough, I'll touch my toes. But what I'll never do is think about touching my toes by reaching for them. Because if you're reaching for them, you're going to start bending the spine and you're going to hurt yourself. A tough movement, it should feel like a core exercise. Remember, that includes your lower back, that includes your obliques, especially the obliques. Stand by. Don't get lazy with it. Squeeze the kettlebell, crush the kettlebell. Keep the elbow locked out. Keep the shoulder blades pulled down and together. It's the same stuff, isn't it? You hear me harp on about the same stuff in so many different exercises. It's the basics. Good. So if you're doing this right, you're really going to feel it in the obliques, you're really going to feel it in the lower back. You'll feel it in the hamstrings and the glutes. Eyes on the kettlebell, crush the hell out of it. Hips back, hips back, hips back. If you're not touching your toes, that's fine. As long as you're taking it to the end range of movement that you've got, I said you feel your hamstrings and your glutes, etc. are at max stretch. And that's where people hurt themselves. They go to the end range of movement, they can't touch their toes, so then they break form to enable them to touch their toes. That's why you're hurting yourself. Your vertebrae are all nice and tight and then you're bending them open. Stand by. Let's go. Remember what I said? If you're using a can of beans and it feels easy now, and you're really starting to understand the movement pattern, which you should, because it's just you pushing those hips back the same as you do for a kettlebell swing, except you'll feel like they're going off at an angle, which of course they are, because the kettlebell's in one arm. So you'll feel like your hips are going back over your shoulder, if you like, okay? Now remember, when we're picking these kettlebells up, make sure we're getting them into the clean position. So rest there. Start thinking about this, okay? All these movement patterns that I'm teaching you, the exercises I'm teaching you, just because we're doing a windmill, don't just pick the kettlebell up any old way and just chuck it up and then go for it. Pick it up the way I'm teaching you. So remember that overhand, chest up, drive and snap, racked position. From here, punch up, lock it out, get in that position. Build up the movement patterns, because yes, you're able to just probably go like this, because it's light, but see when you get to the heavier weights, which you're aspiring to lift, you're going to need technique to get it up, or you're going to hurt yourself. So think about it, anytime you're moving the kettlebell from the ground and up, make sure you're doing it the right way. Happy with that? Right, let's make it a wee bit more dynamic, and a wee bit more complex. We're combining 3 movements into one now, okay? So please, as always, no one has done this before, so I don't want anybody to practice it until they've watched me do it 1 full rep at least, or at least a few. Because I know people get excited, and that's fine, okay? But what I hate to see is when I'm trying to explain a movement I know no one's done before, and I look, and someone's practicing it when I've not even finished the first rep. So please watch. It's a clean. Remember the clean? How we get it from the floor to the racked position? Overhand grip. Now if you do this correctly, from the side, look at my form here. Okay, I'm not turning it into a squat, because then I'm using my quads too much and not enough of those big, powerful posterior chain muscles. I'm forcing my chest up, nice, neutral back. To get this thing up, I'm not thinking about this. I'm thinking about snapping my hips forward, just like a kettlebell swing. Driving the feet and snapping the hips forwards. That's where the power's coming from. Up to the racked position. Yes, it's slick. I've been doing it a while. It's going to take you time. Think about it. Do it properly. Rotate. So in slow motion, drive and snap. This thing goes from an overhand grip. All I'm doing with my wrist is this. Overhand grip, rotating it round as I lift it up. And as a result, it doesn't go anywhere other than landing slickly on my forearm without a bang. To get it back down, rotate it off. What way do you rotate your wrist? You don't even need to ask that question, because when you go into the movement, it can only go one way, okay? You can't rotate it the wrong way, otherwise you're going to break yourself. So from here, drive and snap, clean. From here, pull it in tight, squeeze the hell out of it, chest proud front squat. Happy? Up, squeeze the butt, push press, pull down, flick it back off. 1 rep, chest up, snap, racked position. Front squat, drive up, squeeze the butt, push press. Notice how it's not a squat thruster, as in I'm separating the push press from the squat. It is not squatting up. Okay, because that would be a squat thruster. You happy with that? So let me show you one more time without talking on the other side. Happy? To the floor, repeat. Any questions? Pretty happy? Now remember, eventually further down the line, these kettlebell workouts are going to just be hard hitting. You know how when we do a bodyweight workout, it's just all in, not much explanation needed, high intensity. These will get there, but we have to explain them. You have to practice. That means this might not be too intense for you because it's slow, it's thought out. Don't try to be fast. Speed comes with practice, okay? Think about it as much as you need to think about it, but don't overthink it. All it is a clean. It's a front squat. Make sure that racked position stays solid. Go. Push press, down, flick it off. We're staying on the one side, remember? Don't go changing arms until this 20 seconds is up. Really think about really getting these movements right. Clean it up, squeeze it, squat, drive up, push press. Our push press, everybody, remember, is just you bending the knees slightly and exploding up. It's not a squat. Change arms, stand by. Up, racked position, squeeze it, squat. See when you're squatting, do not lose this racked position. Another common mistake I always see is when people squat, they go like this. Yep, they'll put the kettlebell on their shoulder to rest it. Don't do that. That's lazy and it's wrong. The racked position is this. Elbow underneath, change arms. Elbow underneath the hand, squeeze the hell out of it. It's not resting on my hip, it's pulled in tight. Happy? Go. Up, establish. That racked position. As a beginner, you need to focus on each transition, separate them. I'm going to start going at my speed now, so you can also see how it looks when it starts to flow. But as a beginner, break down each transition. Don't try and make it all blend. Clean front squat, press. Make sure in that front squat, once again, you're squeezing the bejesus out your glutes. Especially when you're locking this thing up over your head. Chest up, squeeze the butt. Squat down, up, squeeze the butt. Press up, squeeze the butt as you lower it down. Again, if you're tight on the upper body, you're going to start leaning backwards to compensate. That's bad. But one way we can try to put the brake on it a bit is by making sure you've got that butt squeezed. Don't try to be fancy, keep it simple, speed will come. Once again, once you do these movement patterns, you don't think about them too much, you just focus on the little things. Remember, finish your rep off. You think about the little things, posture, form, crushing the kettlebell. If your cleans are a bit of a mess, good, you've got work to do. It takes time. Don't beat yourself up about it and don't get frustrated. It's easy to watch someone who's been doing it a while and try to compare yourself. Oh, I'm crap. Takes time, takes practice. Keep practicing. Happy? That's us, good. I'll lose track of the rounds. Right, okay, so that's us. We've got one more round to do. Pay attention on this one, please. Catch your breath, get a drink of water if you need one. This is for single leg Romanian deadlift. Before we do it, I'm going to show you how to do a Romanian deadlift. There's no point trying to do a single leg Romanian deadlift if you don't know what a Romanian deadlift is, because you're going to make an arse of it. You need to understand the movement pattern. Once again, the kettlebell, I'm showing you side on because it's easier to see exactly what's happening. I'm putting the kettlebell in between my feet. That's my centre of gravity. That 12 kilogram kettlebell feels more like 16 there. Here, it feels more like 20. See the difference, okay? All that stress I'm now putting on my back. It's simple physics. Get the feet either side of it, chest up. Never lift with that rounded back. Get the chest up. And when I say chest up, I mean try to get the logo of your t-shirt facing forwards without bending your knees into
Activity completed.
Okay? So I'm teaching you how to pick the kettlebell up, not how to do a Romanian deadlift. Chest up, drive the feet, snap the hips. Again, another familiar movement pattern. From here, my feet are roughly hip to shoulder width apart. Hip to shoulder width apart. Enough room to get the kettlebell through. I don't want to be too wide here. From here, chest up proud, shoulder blades pulled together. And then all I'm doing here with soft knees is hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back, snap them forwards. What is it? Think about it. What is this? It's the exact same movement pattern, the exact same movement as the warm-up. Toe touches. Do not reach for the ground, just like those windmills. Think about chest up proud, keep the spine solid and neutral, don't let it bend, push my hips back. Push my hips back, push my hips back, push my hips back, tap the ground. Do not reach for the ground, because if you reach for the ground, which is where a lot of people go wrong, look at my form, look at my spine, perfect, if I don't mind saying so myself, but then I reach, Not perfect, okay? See the difference? I've now unlocked that tightness in my spine and I've opened myself up to injury. Hit! And I'm going to hurt myself over time, wear and tear and all that good stuff. To know that you're pushing your hips back correctly, as you stand here and push your hips back, that kettlebell, once again, where should it be hitting? In between my feet. If it's hitting out in front of your feet, you've leaned forward, you have not pushed your hips back. You're going to make mistakes when you learn, so realise that. Think about your hips as a catapult. Someone's pulling your hips back, all that stress and strain on those rubber bands of the catapult, that's your hamstrings, that's your glutes, that's your lower back. You snap it forward, boom! That's exactly what's happening, that's the power we need. Power from the posterior chain. Happy with that? Good. So that is your Romanian deadlift. If that needs work, work on it. A single leg deadlift is exactly the same, except I'm going to bring my feet in together because I need balance. Nothing changes here other than I'm doing it one-legged. It's tough for balance, which is why I'm going slow. And I showed you the Romanian deadlift first because when a lot of people do this, it's a mess. Nothing's changed. Nothing, my head isn't even doing anything differently compared to the Romanian deadlift at all. It's still hips back. I'm just lifting my leg as I go. And the kettlebell is over my toes. Yep, a dangerous place to be, but it's the correct place to be. You shouldn't be dropping it on your toes anyway. And the whole time I'm fighting to keep that spine neutral. Biggest mistake people make, once again, all they think about is touching the floor. There's no hips back action. You just go like this. See the difference? No hips back action, just all softness, and I'm just leaning forward. And again, that's fine with a light kettlebell. You start using a heavy one, you're going to hurt yourself. So if you want to start everybody on the first couple of rounds with the Romanian deadlift, that's fine. Once again, realise that that hip hinge, because that's all this is a hip hinge movement. It's simple, but it takes time and practice. Now I'm going to do it side on so you can see. Stand by, we're starting in 15 seconds. I'm going to start early. Remember, pick the thing up properly. Hips back, hips forward, squeeze the butt. Hips back, hips forwards. You're trying to tap the ground, don't transfer any weight of that kettlebell into it. Tap the ground by pushing your hips back, not by reaching for it, go. I want everybody to start with what I'm showing you now, which is the Romanian deadlift. Let's start with that. Don't look forward, keep your head nice and neutral, looking roughly about 6 foot in front of you. Hips back, hips back, hips back. Feet, weight distributed evenly across the floor. Drive the toes into the ground. Do not reach. Do not reach. Let's do another one. Let's do 2 feet on the ground. Let's keep it 2 feet on the ground. Stand by. 3, 2, 1. Hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back. Snap and squeeze the butt. Hips back, hips back, hips back. Snap and squeeze the butt. You're trying to tap the ground by pushing your hips back, not by reaching for it. So if you lack the range in your hamstrings, your glutes and your lower back, don't be tempted to break form just to touch the ground. Good. Right, if you can, and I encourage you to, let's break it into singles. If you lose balance, it's fine. You need to practice. Coordination comes with practice. Stand by. Nothing changes. Okay, you can see I'll be losing balance. I guarantee I will, especially on my weak leg. Hips back, hips back, hips back with one leg raised. And if I'm doing it properly, my chest remains proud, shoulder blades remain pulled together. Now I'm changing legs each time here. If you've just, that's probably my fault. If you've committed and just done it on one leg, that's fine. Just change legs now, but I'm going to keep doing alternating. You do what you want. Keep it safe, keep it sensible. Remember that foot is driven hard into the ground. I'm not on my tiptoes, I'm not on my heel, I'm on the whole foot. It's hips back, chest proud, hips back, chest proud, hips back. Snap the hips through, squeeze the butt. The only difference by doing it single leg is it's going to feel a bit harder because we're using balance. Okay, those muscles are going to be twinging side to side, using all those stabilizer muscles as well. It's tough. Now, keep it strict. After a few reps, you'll probably find you start to find your balance a bit better. If you're holding that kettlebell on your fingertips, don't. Crush it. I want you to feel like you're crushing the hell out of it. If that feels tiring and it feels sore in your hands, get on with it. You're transmitting more power into it. If you lose balance, relax it. If you lose balance, stop, set up, go again. Don't try to recover. If that kettlebell's way out there, if you lose balance and that kettlebell ends up off to the side, don't try and lift it with that horrible stretch and strain, because you're going to hurt yourself. Might not be now, might not be today, but over time, you keep all these bad habits going, your resilient body is going to one day go, nah, no more for me. If you want to do a double footed, both feet on the ground Romanian deadlift, just to remind yourself what it is, do it. Okay, this is yours. That was quick. Okay, so that's a very important movement to learn, because if you're struggling with this movement pattern, you'll be struggling with a kettlebell swing, because it's the same, isn't it? Look, hips back, hips back, hips back, hips back, snapping forwards. The only difference is I'm not throwing that kettlebell forwards. Hips back, hips back, hips back. So a kettlebell swing, we just don't push the hips back as far. Okay, so we shouldn't be coming away down here on a kettlebell swing. Okay, you'll feel that difference. Happy? Any questions at all? That's the session complete. Like I say, some of those rounds where they got your heart rate up, some like this were maybe a bit more slow and thought out. We're combining cardio and strength, so you get the best of both worlds, but ultimately it depends on the weight you're using, etc. as well. Start light, but I really want you to really practice with those heavier weights, because that's how you understand and learn the technique involved in the exercises. Yes, you're going to struggle a lot. You might not even be able to do a few
Activity
reps,
completed.
but a few reps leads to more reps. If you're just using the same weight because it's easy, and you're using the same weight day in, day out, your body's not going to be challenged. It's better than nothing, of course it is, but you're not overloading, so you're not going to get better. You're not going to get stronger, fitter, faster, more powerful. You need to keep it going. So remember what it says about the kettlebell weights, okay? Start at an 8, you might have lighter, that's fine if you're really just getting started. But remember, go from an 8 to a 12 to a 16 to a 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Go in those. You'll get it and you'll be like, oh my God. The first thing you'll struggle to do, and probably the only thing you can do with your new heavier kettlebell, is a double-handed swing. But eventually, those double-handed swings become easier. You'll develop that power, so all of a sudden that 12 that you've got, that used to be using on the double-handed swings, you'll now start to find that you can get it up. You struggle to press it, but keep struggling. Just like anything, you're going to get stronger. So that's my point. I know ideal now at this moment in time as we speak, it's still lockdown and weights etc. are like gold dust, are expensive as hell. I appreciate that. But any way you can, you know, if you're doing kettlebells and you enjoy them and you've been at them for probably quite a few sessions, if you've done all 6 sessions, for example, let's say you're into it. If you're just doing it for the first time, you've caught the bug and you're going to go and buy every kettlebell under the sun, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? So thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed that. That's another format. So many formats we can use, but look at it. It was simple, wasn't it? You don't have to be complicated when it comes to circuit training. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And that's another Monday in the bag. Let's do it. Let's get after it this week. Oh, yeah.